Hi guys, how are we all? I'm back again with another video. I thought I would make another one today because it's kind of September. It's not kind of September, it is September. But yeah, I thought seeing as we're all in the back to uni mood, people are starting to think about their final year of uni, their first year of uni, and it kind of put me in the mood of thinking about my projects, my uni experience, how to survive uni. So I thought I'd put together this little video where I kind of talk about my book, House Jungle. So if any of you have followed me for 5 minutes, you'll know that I pretty much never stop talking about my book, House Jungle. So it was a project that I started in uni because I was just a big houseplant lady, as I'm sure you all know, and I decided to just turn that love into a project. And everyone was doing books, but they were all doing children's books, and I didn't want to do a children's book. So this was my way of being able to do a book, and eventually it became something more than just a uni project. I started to get it self-published using Kickstarter. Following the Kickstarter, a few publishers actually picked it up, and in the end I went with a particular publisher, and now it's a proper published book. You can buy it on Amazon, you can buy it on my website, and every now and then some lovely boutique bookshop tags me on Instagram and I discover somewhere else that you can buy my book. And I felt like it was easily done. Not the publisher part, but creating the whole book was really not that difficult, and it sounds scary and impossible, but I did it, and if I can do it, literally anybody can do it. So I thought I would just put together this video and explain exactly how I wrote my book. So this is House Jungle, this is my book. It's pretty much unchanged virtually since I designed it 2 years ago now at uni for one of my third year final major projects. And there's a few changes that the publisher asked me to make, but all in all it's pretty much the same book. So it's a guide to caring for houseplants. It's largely illustrated, as I am an illustrator, and it's mostly for beginners, but yeah, the general idea is that it's a beautiful coffee table kind of book, designed to help people who are maybe a little bit less green-fingered care for houseplants. So I think third year, especially on an art course, can be kind of scary because the whole of your 3 years at uni tends to rest on this final year and the work you produce. So I found a lot of people, myself included, kind of felt the pressure to make something really amazing that was going to get them that first class honours, it was going to get them jobs, and it's pretty scary. So I had all this pressure to kind of make something that would be amazing until I sat down with my tutor, and they were like, is that what you want to do? Do you want to do this project that you're working on, or would you rather do something that you're really excited about and that you feel passionate about and that you'll be proud to show people? Whew, what a well-timed postman. So yeah, back to uni. So I listened to my tutor and I thought, well, he's right, I've paid all this money to be here. As you all know, uni is very expensive these days. And I didn't want to have spent all that money and all that time to create stuff that I wasn't about to wax lyrical about in my portfolio. So I decided that I'd always wanted to make a book, and I was a massive plant lady, so the two kind of combined, and House Jungle, the project, began. So first things first, I had never written a book before. I had maybe folded a few pieces of paper together as a kid and written a storybook, but never, I had no idea where to start, just the same as anyone else. So what I did first was just a look at a load of books that I already had. So I decided that at least 100 pages would be a good place to start for a book, and I think it did end up being just over 100 pages. 103 pages. So I pretty much just started there. I knew I needed 100 pages, and this is House Jungle. We literally just started from a blank page, guys. And then I did all this somehow. And then it eventually became this. So I just started off with the 100 pages, like I said before. So here we go. Here was my first brainstorm of ideas, one of them being the size 100 pages at least. And then I just drew out 100 pages. So here was like where I put down every kind of idea that I may have had for pages, and like realistically I knew some of the pages wouldn't have a lot of info on them. I actually got rid of these big letters for the final publisher approved book, but these were in my final major project when I printed it all out and handed it in. So yeah, realistically it's an illustrated book. It was an illustrated project. I was calling myself an illustrator and designer, so it didn't need to be really like informative and word heavy. The idea was always to be an easy coffee table kind of book for beginners. So that is where I started, and that's pretty much where I finished as well. So I just started drawing really, and I hope that when you see this you kind of take comfort in a little bit really, because some of the designs I started out with were absolutely terrible. Here are my first tries for the House Jungle logo, and I think the whole point, seeing as it was an illustrated book, was just to try loads of different things. Like, I think a lot of people in their third year are worried about having a style nailed down, but I really didn't still. I was kind of working towards one, but still, like, I'm still developing even now my style, so I don't think it's that important as long as you just create something that you're happy with, really. So as you can see, this was me like trying out little taglines that would go underneath the title. Again, just in loads of different lettering styles. And then I just started on the illustrations. So obviously I knew there needed to be information in the book, but as it was an illustrated guide, I knew I wanted to go really crazy with sort of end papers, which are sort of these guys here, and I did. So that was the general idea, is that it was supposed to be always something that would be highly decorative, illustrated, and you will find throughout the book lots of these little in-between intro pages. So for that I just started drawing all of the plants I could think of, and some of these I used, some of them I didn't. A little bonsai tree there, which made it into the final thing. And these are actually the pieces that I ended up using for the House Jungle cover, but you'll see like it really wasn't anything impressive to start with. So a lot of the times I will print out one design 500 times and try, not 500, that's exaggerating, a lot of times, and letter over the top, try out different styles, different wording. Yeah, so that's one way of I think experimenting with your style more and having a bit more freedom, and also creating a first getting project. All of these post-it notes are me explaining to my tutor exactly how I researched things, how I experimented things, and I think that was a lot of how I managed to get a first with this project. The printer is your friend. So here's my very first mock-up. I printed so many of these. I'm sorry, environments, but it was necessary. So this is just sort of how I expected each sort of spread to look, and that's the thing that I think is most important if you're working on something like an illustrated book, is you need to work in spreads. You can't work in individual pages, because I think when you're creating something illustrated or designed, it's important to think about how someone is going to view the page when it sits flat on the table, not necessarily each thing on its own. Here is another example of printing things and trying out different layouts and things. So this is just scribbled on in pencil over the top, and I knew that I wanted it to be succinct. So there's little bullet point hearts that I ended up painting and adding later. And this is just me sort of figuring out exactly what would look great and where. So then later on, you will see, I've actually written notes to myself as well, that this did not look right. Doesn't look right. So I went for something a bit more pared back, and this sort of typography it's all hand lettered, it's just my handwriting in capitals, actually ended up becoming a font for the final book. Mostly what I did was just draw the illustrations I needed. Sometimes I would, well, most of the time I would put the illustrations in and figure out where the words would sit around them. But I thought also it would be quite interesting just to mention, like, these are the little things that it's important to think about when you are making a kind of illustrated book. So stuff like the boring stuff, like page numbers, I actually didn't end up using these in the end, just because it was really hard to keep everything consistent when you're doing something like as polished as a published book. So in the end I ended up using my font that I made from my handwriting. But yeah, this was what I originally went with when I was first making this for my project. And I think as you work through the book, there's other stuff that you'll notice that you need. For instance, I realised while I was creating the spreads that I would probably need a contents page, because everything is divided up into sections, and the contents page then made me realise that I needed numbers, etc. So it is definitely something that you'll pick up as you sort of go along. But yeah, it's just, I think the little things, like maybe the spine detail. I originally had a little leaf down here, but it's been replaced with my name. How fancy. The sketchbook is all very well and good, but now I thought I'd show you just exactly how I turned it into a book. So I feel like I need to add that I didn't do all of the drawings first and then make the book. I actually took it page by page, and obviously I added things along the way, like don't think this was here at the beginning and things. Yeah, so that's pretty much how I did it. I think at the time I set myself a goal of creating 2 pages a day. I was working just at home every day because I needed all the scanner and stuff that I had at home and all the paints and stuff, so it wasn't really worth schlepping to the studio every day. So usually I would be a big advocate of going to the studio at uni and making as much of the time that you have in the studio space, if you do get any, at your uni. But for this, like, I just had to hide myself away in my room for like 2 months, just eat beans on toast. And I don't know how I was this motivated, but I guess when you're on a deadline and you've just spent 30 grand to be at uni, you just find a way. Yeah, so I pretty much took it page by page, and I put together on InDesign, which I think is probably the sort of publishing program that most people would use nowadays. So it's an Adobe product, and the whole idea is it's designed to help you put together magazines, books, all that kind of thing. So it's not that helpful with sort of spell check and things, but one thing it is great for is layout. And I'm not gonna go into a huge in-depth explanation of how to use InDesign, but if you are ever creating sort of any kind of publication, this is what I certainly would use. And you can set it up just to show the spreads exactly how they will look in the book, which was so helpful. So this is pretty much just how it went, and mostly from now I just use my creativity and you know, imagination to design the layout. So judging by other books, I knew that there would be maybe a little first page and then an intro page with the description and my name, and obviously needed to fill this blank space here with something more interesting than a white page. And yeah, then we just went from there. This one started off as sort of a list of equipment that I felt you would need, and it was just based on my own personal experience, but you could also, if it's not something that you're like super knowledgeable about, you can just do some research as well. Like, there were a lot of pages that I didn't know exact like official instructions for how to do things, especially to do with fertilizing. It's fine if you don't know everything and to just do your research, which is what I did. Yeah, so for this page I just created a list, and then obviously I created the designy version. So there was some stuff that I just created just to fill gaps, like this guy. But yeah, I just illustrated the things that were on the list and added a small sort of description, as you can see. And like I said, I just took every page day by day. So I would sort of sit down in the morning and knew that I needed to make a page about compost, or in this case potting mix, which I had to change it to as my publisher is American, and apparently that's what they call it in America. So yeah, I knew that I needed some illustrations for it, some lettering, some titles, some descriptions, and this is pretty much just what happened at the end of the day. And a lot of it is just creating the illustrations, scanning them in, playing with layout. Like, a lot of it is experimentation, but once you have the illustrations and the info, it's really easy just to put it all together. So I'm not going to bore you with going through every single page and saying the exact same thing, but I hope that gives you an idea of how I went from the individual illustrations to creating something on a page. And then finally, perhaps the most challenging part was getting all printed. So it took me a long time to compile the whole book, think of all the ideas, do all the illustrations, write all the information, and then put it together into something that you know, resembled a book and I was proud of. But I did, I managed it, and then I had to get it printed into a physical book. Now obviously this kind of thing can be super expensive, and like mine was a lot of money, and I only got sort of 2 books to present. So there was one for me to have and one for me to hand in as my project, and they also ended up going on my stand at my degree show and that kind of thing. Yeah, so I would recommend, wherever possible, and I mean wherever possible, if you have to not go on nights out and things to be able to afford this, don't make excuses. Obviously there are people who might find the cost of stuff like this challenging, and that really sucks, and I know it sucks, but if you can, you know, if you do have the ability to get these things made, even though they seem so expensive, I definitely recommend it if you're handing it in for a uni project, and also pretty helpful if you're going to do something like a Kickstarter like I did, where you can show people exactly what they're going to get. Yeah, so after I'd done all of the work, I put together this book. I researched a printer's. I think I just went to somewhere on the recommendation of one of my tutors, because they know about this kind of thing, so use them. Yeah, and that was pretty much it. I handed in the project, and then after uni finished, I started my Kickstarter, got emails from publishers, and that's kind of just how it all began. But I think one of the main things that sort of stand in our way is kind of the fear of it all, and I think the most important thing is to just get started. That's literally all I did. I had a brainwave, I was excited, I was at uni, I was just in the studio, I went straight to the uni art shop, bought myself a new sketchbook. I sat down on the first page, I just thought, 100 pages, I can do this easy, and just drew out 100 pages, filled as many of them as I could with ideas, and that is pretty much all it took. So I hope that you found this video helpful inspiring and might help you on your way to creating some kind of illustrated publication too. And if you did like this video, here we go, I'm going to go all YouTube on you now, I would appreciate a little if you hit the like button, and also if you liked this video you can go over to my channel and check out my other arty, illustration-y, businessy videos, and maybe even hit the little subscribe button. But thank you very much for watching. Let me know if there's any other kind of videos you'd like me to make, and if not, you can always hit me up on Instagram. I'm just Annie Dornan Smith on there. And thanks so much for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you have a great day. Bye!